It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Connecticut College head field hockey coach, Coach Chrissy Chappell. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. Thanks for having me.
Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to get started in coaching in college field hockey?
Well, yeah, sure thing. I'll keep it short. But I began playing field hockey in middle school and then, up through high school into college. Loved the sport, but really thought my career would head to high school. I majored in education and I was a high school teacher and coach for 6 years here in Connecticut, and was fortunate to have a role model in my older brother who was coaching college soccer at the time that I was entering the professional world. And so I kind of got to watch from the sidelines as he navigated college coaching and all in all of its glory. And as I did that, simultaneous to myself gaining more coaching experience, it became apparent to me that my real passion for coaching and developing relationships with athletes was greater than the relationship that I was gaining in the classroom. I happened to be a mathematics teacher, and so the relationship I had with my math students versus the relationship I had with my field hockey athletes was very different. And so I was really excited about the opportunity to hopefully about the opportunity to leave the secondary area and tackle college if the opportunity came along. So I was fortunate that it did.
What was that experience like going to Connecticut and getting to play collegiate field hockey?
Oh, wow. Well, growing up in the state of Connecticut and being a UConn sports fan my whole life, um, in the end, it was a dream come true, quite honestly. That said, the recruiting process is a process, and I just looked at a lot of schools outside of the state of Connecticut and kind of was lucky that I had some one-on-one experience with the UConn program through the form of a camp. And in that experience, learned a little bit more about the college itself and the education that I would gain being a student there. And it kind of opened my eyes to what I might have been shying away from in a state school in so close to home. Um, so all in all, when I ended up choosing to go to UConn, the kind of athletic interest I had and the passion for being a Husky fan really coupled with a really awesome academic program that would allow me to pursue my academic goals and earn a bachelor's and a master's degree in 5 years. So all of those things really set me up for a great experience. And then, of course, just the reputation of the UConn field hockey program as I entered it was really on the rise. Nancy Stevens as a coach was extremely successful, and at that point in time, the program was really building to being kind of the perennial top of the Big East Conference at that time. And I was excited about the opportunity to be a part of it and in whatever form that was going to take. And so it was really a fantastic opportunity, and really excited that I was able to do that.
What was that experience like getting to put on that UConn field hockey jersey?
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. To be able to watch from the sidelines as a high school player and um, kind of idolize some of the players that you saw on the field, and then try to imagine what it was like in that locker room and to put on that jersey and then to actually do it and have the opportunity to do it surrounded by a bunch of women who were likewise passionate about the sport and just so excited to be a team and try to win together. Um, all on the backdrop of an unbelievable institution with a great athletic program and a ton of pride. So putting on the jersey for the first time, man, throwing me back a lot of years, Brandon. But it was pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
During your time at UConn, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as a player?
Ooh, well, I like to talk about that time really from a team perspective. My positionally, I was a midfielder and a defender, so I'm not gonna blow anyone's mind with my individual accolades. But our team, as I mentioned, was really coming into its own, I think, as the program grew. And so, I came in as a first year and redshirted. So I was not competing my first year based on the roster size. A group of us redshirted, but we were able to look up to a class of 10 seniors that year who had built that program. And so my first experience from an accolade standpoint was we won the Big East tournament my freshman year, and that earned us, an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. And we fell a bit short. We that year by UConn standards, we fell a bit short. So it left us just wanting that much more. And so we, as a group, really committed to not letting that happen again. And so in my time there, to win the Big East tournament 4 times and the regular season, I think 4 or 5 times, and then to advance to the NCAA tournament in each of those years and the Final Four twice was just awesome. And to be surrounded again at the time at UConn, other sports teams at UConn besides just basketball were also having that type of success. It was just an unbelievable atmosphere to be an athlete at UConn at that time. And I'm just really proud of the precedent that my class and the classes that surrounded me in those 2, 3, 4 years on either side. The collective commitment that we all made to growing that program and setting a standard that then, years later, multiple national championships came along. And I think as alums, we all look back and think, hopefully we were a part of that. And so really proud of all of that team success. And then, academically, I was very committed as a student. So there were some academic accolades in there from our national organization, but primarily really the team awards are what I'm most proud of.
As a collegiate athlete, what was that like and that experience like getting to compete in the Final Four for field hockey?
Oh man, it's something else, and I think that was now a lot of years ago, and I can imagine it's even better now with just the increased visibility of our sport. But back then, it still was a really special experience with my teammates, with our coaching staff, being on that stage with the last 4 teams that are still playing in usually in a pretty big venue. And just to kind of be able to take the field, like we really have nothing to lose because look at all we've accomplished, and we're all, to kind of sound kind of cliche, we've all kind of won to get this far. So kind of that mindset as you go into it was really cool, and just really some unbelievably special memories of those weekends. Yeah, that said, the competitive side of me, one of the 2 Final Fours that we played in, we entered the Final Four having not lost a game. So we were undefeated, and I believe ranked second in the country. And in a crazy, crazy game that went back and forth, we ended up losing in the semifinals 5-4. And that one hurt because we didn't get the opportunity to play on the grandest stage in the national championship game, having been undefeated coming into the Final Four. So that one, all these years later, wish we had a little bit of a few more minutes in that game. I would have loved to have played for a national championship, but sometimes I feel you don't want to take away from the fact that we did make it to be one of the last 4, and that experience alone was very special. My one of the 2 years, probably the second time because I was a little bit older, my coach asked me to be at that time there was a speaker at the Final Four banquet from each team that kind of represented the group. And I was really honored that my coach asked me to speak on behalf of our team at the Final Four the year we played at Northeastern, which was that year I just referenced. And to be able to speak in front of a group of athletes across 4 teams that were so talented and committed to their sport. And in actuality, a lot of faces that were familiar across the room was something that I'll never forget. So
Leaving college, what was that like getting to take that assistant coaching job at UMass and start your coaching career?
I can't thank my boss at that time more for giving me that opportunity. As I mentioned, I initially was coaching high school for 6 years, and felt like I really wanted to give it a go if I got the opportunity. And I got a phone call from another coaching friend of mine who said, hey, this job is open at UMass, and told me a little bit of background on the head coach who had been hired, Justine Sowery, and just what a great opportunity. So I threw my name in to coach, for the opportunity to coach with a coach who had been a international player for the country of Australia for a good number of years, and then had coached with the US program for a number of years. So at face value, I knew she knew a ton about the sport and had a great reputation. And so threw my name in. Really had no idea if I had a shot based on being away from the college game for 6 years, and was just super lucky that she decided I was a good fit for that position. And in the end, that opened the door for me to completely shift careers and be a full-time coach and live the college coaching life. So that experience shaped a lot of who I am now, and the amount of knowledge that I gained from working with a coach with that expertise and the rest of our coaching staff can't be minimized. I learned so much in that 3 years.
What was that feeling like getting your first head coaching job at American International College?
Well, my first head coaching job after UMass was at Kenyon College in Ohio. So that one was my first opportunity to coach Division III. So kind of hit a crossroads of I wanted that opportunity, I wanted that challenge, and to lead my own program. And the idea of moving to Ohio was an interesting one, but one step on campus, and I knew it was a place that I could really feel comfortable and could potentially build something. So took that job, and what that felt like was awesome to be back kind of in the main seat and able to run all of the logistics and recruiting and all of that for a program, and really learn the ropes of what Division III is for field hockey. That was just a great opportunity for me to do that. And when I transitioned to being the head coach at American International College, that was a new challenge because it was Division II and presented the opportunity to work with scholarships. So all of that, those 2 experiences were really a ton of learning for me, and kind of opening my eyes to the world outside of Division I, having been a Division I player and then coached at the Division I level at UMass. I was given a really great foundation of the philosophy of Division III and the liberal arts education and the values of all of that when I was coaching at Kenyon. And then the opportunity I had at AIC to work in Division II field hockey, which is a pretty unique place given the number of institutions that sponsor Division II field hockey, and learn a little bit about what it's like when you have to navigate athletic scholarships, which I found very interesting. So those 2 things really, I think, balanced out my knowledge, I guess, of the college landscape in my sport.
How has your last 2 head coaching stops helped you to where you are now at Connecticut College?
Well, when I sat at Kenyon, Kenyon is a small liberal arts college in Ohio and very good academically. And as I recruited there, uh, I came across a number of prospects who, when I asked them what other schools they were considering, they would mention schools like Connecticut College in the NESCAC conference and in New England. And it really kind of opened a door for uh, me to learn about the NESCAC conference, which is, the conference that Connecticut College is in, and really set a career goal for me, completely honest. To be completely honest, it just coaching at Kenyon, I made a decision then that if I was to be able to get the opportunity to coach in the NESCAC conference, I would most likely jump at that opportunity. If all the I's dotted and the T's crossed, that those opportunities don't come along often, and I would have to seriously consider it, because from the outside looking in, it looked like if you're going to coach Division III, one of the best places to do that is within that conference. And then, of course, every institution is going to be a little different. So I think Kenyon really solidified my career goal to end up in a school in the NESCAC conference. My experience at AIC allowed me to move back to New England, which is my roots and where I'm from. And as I said, also kind of just gave me a different perspective on recruiting and how to navigate academic scholarship, athletic scholarship, the combination of the two. And also, taught me a lot about how to recruit based on the different institutions that I've worked at, and that you're trying to maximize the return on the investment you make in a recruit. But you also want to bring in kids who are going to be successful and really, love the place that they're going to school. And every institution is going to be a little different in terms of what that pitch is, that sell is. And at the end of the day, you have to be honest and bring in athletes that understand what it is they're getting into, and families that are willing to commit to that. And I think working at two institutions that were so different really provide a really good foundation for where I am now. And so when the Connecticut College opportunity came along, being in the NESCAC conference, it just kind of was the perfect situation. I'm originally from the state of Connecticut. I went to the University of Connecticut. I'm a Connecticut person through and through. And so to be able to be given the opportunity to lead this program was just I couldn't have scripted it better, really.
Of course, what was that feeling like getting to come back home to Connecticut and become the head coach for Connecticut College?
Well, it's really special. I'm rewinding back to almost 10 years ago now, when I got the phone call from our athletic director at the time to offer me the position. And just a really excited feeling, a really satisfying feeling that, of all the stops I'd had, I was always kind of looking for a place that I could set some roots and build something. And going in with that opportunity in the moment of getting, being given that opportunity, the job, I think this was a program where I said, if I'm given this opportunity and I say yes, I think I can build something here. And so to have the confidence moving forward, I think it was a really cool moment, and just a moment of pride for me to come home to Connecticut, and just kind of a lot of things all lined up in a really nice way, personally and professionally, for this to be a great opportunity.
What was that feeling like the first time you got to step onto the Connecticut College field for the first time as a head coach?
I think I'd say interesting. Mainly just because, I was hired in the summer. So I inherited a roster. And so I hadn't recruited any of the athletes that I was going to coach in that first season. So I was extremely clear over the summer in a few conference calls I had with the team about kind of setting a new tone, clean slate for the program. Here's my philosophy, here's what I want to do, here's my, my vision for the program. and, take it or leave it. And so those kids that decided to come back that year came in with open minds and worked really hard. And I give that class, that group, so much credit, because they allowed me to really set a really good foundation for what we were going to do. So stepping on the field with them in preseason that year was a little nerve-wracking, uncertain, didn't know what they were going to look like. I hadn't watched any footage. I truly wanted it to be a blank slate, and it really was. And then, that was for practice. And so first game, was pretty cool. We did win. I remember it was a win, and I won't say who was against, but I do remember we won. So really cool to start my career off here with a win.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built as a head coach for Connecticut College?
So to piggyback on what I was just talking about, I came in here and really wanted to set a new tone. And I imagine most coaches, want to do that when they come in. And so as I addressed kind of the kids that I inherited, and in the recruiting conversations, it was, a lot about, what is the culture here now? What do you like about it? What do you maybe think you would like to see changed? And then, where does that overlap with my vision for where our program can go? So where it started then was the relationship that the kids had with each other, and kind of rebuilding that idea of kind of team bonding, team, wanting to be around each other, wanting to be around the sport, wanting to be at practice. And so we started there, and my idea at the time was, if we can get them to fall back in love with the sport, want to be out there working hard for each other, and to care about each other as people first, the wins are going to come. The competitive level is going to come. I'm going to get out recruiting, but in Division III, you're playing the sport by choice. And so if you're making that choice every day to come to practice, to compete in a game, let's put your best effort out there. And while we're doing it, let's have some fun, and let's build relationships that are going to last a lifetime. So that's kind of where we started. And I think I was very fortunate to have some leadership in those first few years that bought in to what I was saying and wanted more and more of that, and did a great job of kind of stewarding our program over that first 4 years. And our results kind of spoke to that. And so, I'm very thankful for those alumni. And so our culture now, 9 years later, is a lot of that. It's really based on, it's a student athlete driven culture, where we really care about each other as people first. We recognize individual differences. We, really embrace the strengths of our athletes on and off the field first, and try to maximize the strengths and kind of try to fill in the gaps where we can. But really start with the relationship and how we can build that together with the foundational skills to be a successful team.
Who are some of the teams that you face in your conference each week?
So our conference, the NESCAC conference, the New England Small College Athletic Conference, we have 11 schools, all of which are highly competitive academically and athletically across all sports, and specifically in the sport of field hockey. Fortunate, or somebody might say unfortunate, I don't know, but day in and day out, we're facing ranked opponents. So our conference is, if we play 10 conference opponents, I would imagine in any given year, 5 of them are probably against teams ranked in the top 10 or 12 in the country, depending on the week. In recent years, one of those has been the defending national champion in multiple years. So it's a highly competitive conference. You're talking, I'm not going to slight one team over the other in our conference. So our conference is comprised of us, Middlebury, Tufts, Bowdoin, Bates, Amherst, Williams, Wesleyan. I feel like I forgot somebody. Hamilton. There we go. Hamilton, Trinity. I think I got all 11. I think I did my justice there. Colby. Okay, there we go. I think I got everybody. But as I mentioned, in my previous positions, the NEFCAC as a conference has a reputation similar in Division I to the Ivy League, in that it's a high academic college. All of our colleges have extremely high academic standards, but we also set a tone with very competitive athletic teams across every sport. And so it's an extremely fun environment to coach in, because every game in our conference, anyone can win. And so you can't look at the standings and say, well, the number one team's playing the team that's currently last, and think that that's not going to be competitive. That's just not the case. Like, every game is a battle from start to finish. And it's one of the things that attracted me to the conference. So those are our in-conference opponents. Outside of the conference, we, typically play regional opponents. Like Babson is a traditional opponent for us. Smith College is a traditional opponent for us. We always keep both of them on our schedule. And then year to year, we sometimes shift our non-conference to add a little bit of variety here and there.
What is that home game atmosphere like, getting to play teams like Middlebury versus going to Colby and playing them away?
Yeah, that specific to our sport, that does have some intricate differences. So Brandon, I'm not sure how familiar you are with field hockey here in New England, or just nationally, in terms of the surface that we play on. But so we play on an artificial surface, no matter pretty much what school you play at. But some play on multi-purpose turf that is kind of the infill with the rubber infill. And then another chunk play on what we like to just reference as a carpet turf, which some other people reference that as a water-based AstroTurf kind of facility. So it's a much flatter surface, doesn't have the rubber, and is primarily a field hockey surface. So the ball roll is very different on one versus the other. So a lot faster on one than the other. And so here at Connecticut College, we have the infill turf. Some of the teams, including Middlebury in our conference, have the water-based or the carpet-based turf. So there's a combination of factors when you play home versus playing away in our conference. So sometimes it's the travel to Maine, as you mentioned, Colby, that's a pretty good drive. So you've got to deal with the travel and what that feels like for your athletes. But then you also have to consider our home surface versus the away surface, and how we prepare our game plan and the mentality of our athletes to put us in the best place to be successful. So home games are always better, right? You get your sleep in your own bed, eat in the own dining hall, and you play on your own home turf. So home games, obviously we love, but the away games all present a little bit of a different challenge.
At Connecticut College, what is that home game atmosphere like?
It's beautiful. I'll say that. We have selfishly, I think we have the best view from our turf in our conference. Our surface, or our turf, is situated on a river. So it's behind our athletic center. So if you stand inside the athletic center and look out at our field, the backdrop is a river. It's the Thames River. The Thames River also, where our campus is, meets Long Island Sound. So from our soccer competition venue, you can also have a water view. So we have a lot of water view. And so that, along with New England foliage in the fall, kind of gives you a great backdrop for a home game, no matter what. And then our atmosphere, our field is in kind of a half bowl. So fans sit on a hill next to the field, and there's a grandstand, and then a lot of people stand or sit kind of around that. And a lot of athletes come out to support our team, and then huge family presence with a lot of good energy. So it's a fun atmosphere. I think a unique thing to our conference is that our field hockey, women's soccer, and men's soccer, we play the same conference schedule for about 95% of our conference games, so that on a weekend where we are hosting, let's say, Bates for field hockey, women's soccer is also playing Bates, and men's soccer is also playing Bates, all at home in staggered game times on different fields. So it's fun in that sense that kind of we're all taking on the same opponent. So it's like, let's all be successful this weekend. And then some of them come to our games, we go to their games, we catch a little bit here and there. And it's kind of like the whole school is taking on the same opponent, which is, I think, unique to our conference and just makes for a really cool environment.
What is that game day atmosphere like for you as a head coach?
Like my day to day on game day. Well, I'm not a super, like a real superstitious coach. A Saturday game day looks very different than a weekday game day, but I'll go with my favorite game day, which would be Saturdays. Usually starts pretty early, getting a little bit of family time before I get out the door, and then getting in the office, making sure the locker room is set, checking in with my assistant. Definitely going to get some caffeine in there and some breakfast. And then it's kind of I feel like it's a lot of waiting because you just want the game to start. So it's kind of last little tweaks to maybe the game plan, just making sure my head is set for what I want to say to the team before the game when I address them in the locker room, depending on the day, how I want to motivate, what I want to say. Just getting my head right for that. And then I usually walk in the middle of a dance party in our locker room and break that up, give them a nice pregame game plan, a little bit of motivation, and then we usually take the field and see what happens. But it's and then our post game is where the family stuff really comes back in, and we have a really cool family gathering after most home games, and it's just great to see families out to support their daughters, and it gives me a chance to get to know some of them outside of the competition venue, which is also fun.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like get to coach as a head coach and getting to obviously, hopefully get that win?
Well, playing in a conference like NESCAC where it is so competitive, I have learned how valuable wins are and how hard they are. So if we go way back to the beginning of this conversation and we were talking about my playing experience at UConn, I was really fortunate to be part of teams that won a lot of games. And so in all honesty, I think that probably gave me an unrealistic expectation for kind of or maybe just not unrealistic, but just I don't think I had a full appreciation for maybe what goes in to making a team or forming a team that's going to be that successful and building a program and all of that. And through my experiences as an assistant and now as a head coach, I think the more I've done it, the longer I've done it, winning is a byproduct of a lot of different things. And it's so much of that may not be in your control. So we really try to focus on what we control in game day. And that's our attitude, our effort. And then, tactically we handle what we can. We have a game plan. But to answer your question about what it feels like to get that win, our conference wins are awesome. When we get them, and top to bottom, no one in our conference would say any different. Every win in our conference matters immensely to our conference standings for everyone and to whether you're going to make postseason. So you can't take a day off, you can't take a playoff. And so when you get that win and the final whistle blows, there's definitely a sigh of, oh, okay, we got it. It's over. And the celebration of like, yes, we got it. And that's one more on our step to, the step to get where we want to go. And so NESCAC wins are awesome. And when we can get them, we love it.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for Connecticut College?
So culture is a topic that I think in coaching we talk about a lot, and I think I'll just keep it simple and come back to the relationship building. As I've continually done this for a number of years, I think we all are working on communicating with athletes better, different ways, so that we can really build them up and maximize their potential, but also teach them life skills and communication skills and all of that. And so our culture really starts with that communication and relationship building in the recruiting process, trying to bring in athletes who we think fit with who we are trying to be, athletically and as people. And if we do that well, then when they get here, it's a much more natural transition into college life and being part of our team. But so our culture, I guess I would say, is really built around interpersonal relationships within our team and a love for the sport, and then commitment to working hard and bringing a positive attitude every day.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes looking to play collegiate field hockey?
Well, I think I say most of the time in recruiting, I'll use a line at some point that everybody's process is going to look a little different. And I mean, every coach, sure, but every kid, right? Every process is going to look different. Some kids start earlier in their freshman or sophomore year. They're already committed that they want to pursue college athletics. Other student athletes might not really get serious about that until this time in their junior year, like spring of junior year, and then they're reaching out. So I think recruits end up in front of me in a variety of different ways. Some of them are kids that I see when I go out and evaluate at tournaments. Some are kids I see through video. A lot come to me first in an email, and then I go out and see them play. So a variety of different ways get them in front of me. But then from there, the process is, we're building that relationship. So the COVID carryover of Zoom, as we are sitting here on a Zoom, I think that carryover in recruiting has actually been really good, that we can have conversations face to face with recruits instead of being on a phone, to help build that relationship. So I always start there with a kid once I've seen them play, and I think they have the athleticism, the work rate, some of the things I look for. If I think they have those, then I start that trying to get to know them, and what are their academic goals, their athletic goals, who are they as a person, is that going to fit with who I am as a person, and then we get them to campus for a visit. We show them as much as we can, so that on that two-way street of recruiting, they leave here feeling like they've learned a lot about our institution and our program and gotten a feel for the culture that we're really proud of. And then, decision-making time comes kind of somewhere after that. Most of our recruits are going to make decisions over the summer between junior and senior year, mainly based on their timeline, because they want to make a decision before they start their fall competitive season. And so that's kind of in general how the process works. I'm a big believer in the two-way street of recruiting, though. So it's got to be a fit for me and for them and their families. And so the relationship building helps us really hash out whether that is actually a fit or not. So
As a head coach, what are some of the things that you look at in those prospective student athletes when going to their high schools looking at them?
So on field, there's a basic level of skill and, basic execution that I think every coach is probably going to look for. But outside of that, I look for the things that you can't really coach. So that I call that work rate. What do you do when your team loses the ball or when your team gets the ball back? How are you helping that? Are you hustling or not? And then, general athleticism, speed. I mean, not going to turn away a kid who can run faster than anybody on my team, right? Because I can make you quit a little bit quicker, a little bit faster, but we're not going to make huge gains once you're here. So kind of general athleticism and speed, work rate. Those two things are really high on my list. And then off field, it's, how are you interacting with your teammates? Are you supporting them when you come off the field and you're getting water? Are you cheering for your teammates? Are you checking in with your head coach and receptive to feedback that they're giving you? And then even so far as, if you happen to see them with their parents, what does that relationship look like? What do those conversations look like? So that stuff plays in as well in terms of just trying to get a sense for the whole person.
Of course, for those prospective student athletes, what does that official visit look like at Connecticut College?
Well, if they have the ability to come on a weekday during the academic year, we try to make it allow them to kind of get a touch on a lot of the different aspects of life that they would be part of here. So for us, obviously they're going to want to meet with me. They're going to see our athletic facilities. They're going to see the campus tour, and they're going to have a meal, hopefully, with our student athletes, get to spend some time with them without me present, so they can ask any questions they want about culture, life, really get the sense for that. But then I also add in, depending on the kid and what their interests are, we most of the time we'll have them meet with someone from our 4-year career prep program. Being a liberal arts school, sometimes you get that question of, well, now what? When I graduate with liberal arts, what am I going to do? And I think our 4-year career prep program here at Connecticut College is well established and always improving, and something that it drew me here as a professional, because I knew I could sell it. And I think it is a huge selling point for a service that we give our students and our student athletes, so everybody has access to it. And so I always have them meet with someone from that program. And then if they're really committed to an academic major, so they have specific questions that are related to, what is it like to be a biology student, I'll set up a meeting with a biology professor. Or if they are gung-ho on pre-med or pre-health, I'll set up a meeting with one of the advisors for the pre-health program. So the kind of the academic side of it is a little bit of a challenge by choice for the prospect, because I want them to get as much as they possibly can out of that meeting and that day. So that's kind of generally the pieces we touch on a visit.
Of course, what is that like as a head coach, seeing those prospective student athletes fall in love with the facility that they'll be playing for the next 4 to 5 years?
I'm sorry, what is it like for them to see them fall in love with it? Sorry, broke up a little bit. Well, it's awesome. It's really cool when you meet with a prospect that you're highly interested in, and you can kind of feel that two-way street kind of connecting. And I think it's maybe less about the facility. I mean, sure, most people walk around our campus when they're really interested and are like, wow, it's a beautiful place, and this is awesome. And that, I don't want to downplay that. I do think we are in a beautiful place. I already mentioned the view. I think it's a beautiful campus. It has a lot of aspects of it that are great in that way. But what we're doing when we're recruiting is you're going to spend a lot of time with me. You're going to spend a lot of time with your teammates. So for me, it's really fun to see when you can feel the excitement as they talk to you or to me personally, in that one-on-one meeting with their family. If the family's in the room, but the kid is talking 99% of the time, all the questions are coming from the recruit, and they're all really thought out questions or follow-up questions, not just questions they had written on a piece of paper before they walked in the door. That shows they're really engaged and learning about our program, so that they can decide if they want to be a part of it. And then when I hear from our student athletes that lunch went really well and they just loved this kid, they fit right in, and they were asking good questions. Like, when you get that feedback, it definitely feels it feels good, because I think there's another coach in my sport that often talks recruiting and says it's what does he say? It's it's a terrible investment, because he said you get the smallest return on the biggest investment, like if you're gonna use financial terms, because we do, we cast this really wide net, tons of kids, are in our database. And eventually you whittle that down to this really small group that are going to say yes at the end of the day. And so, but that's the job, that's recruiting. And if I'm sitting here in this seat, I have to love that part of it. And I do. But if you don't, that's going to be frustrating. So when you're feeling like that investment is actually going to pay off, yeah, it's pretty cool. It does make it feel like this is worth it.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on that uniform for the first time?
It's fun. It's interesting, right? Because generally most of them, the last time I saw them play live, they were probably like a junior in high school. So now they've had another year, haven't really seen them live playing. And so, so it's pretty neat to see them put on a different, our uniform now, after having pictured that when they committed. And it's fun to see them do it. You see their reaction more than anything. So, for us, that typically happens. We have like a picture day, so it's a little prior to our first game, but super fun to just kind of sit back and watch the group of first years all kind of like, hey, look at this, like super excited about putting it on. And then, we get our first team pictures out of that, and kind of a non-pressured environment, and super fun to have that. So then a few days later to have game day, and then it's like real, definitely feels different when you walk in the locker room and you look around and you see the whole team, but specifically like the new kids, and it's just like a different, like they're actually wearing the uniform, like, oh no, this is me, I'm actually here, and this is game day, and it's a cool moment.
What is that like as a head coach to see those freshmen put it on for the first time and the seniors putting it on for the last time?
Yeah, senior day, or senior last home game. That's you got me at a time where this year, this is going to be a very special one. So I'm already where it's May, so we're in that end of spring, starting to transition to next year time. And so in meeting with my rising seniors, they're starting to envision what senior year is going to look like. And some of that's super exciting, but they're already starting to have some of the realization of the fleeting nature, right? Of that this is going to come to an end, right? Their career is going to be over in a relatively short amount of time. And for this year's rising seniors, they've had to deal with a little bit of adversity, having had their freshman year be COVID, and then the next year not be fully out of COVID, right? So and I have 10 rising seniors. So the emotions, that's why I'm choosing my words here, because I don't want to get super emotional here, but I'm already picturing what it's going to be like on senior day to have 10 seniors and their families walk across the field. I mean, that's the biggest group of seniors I've ever had. So in this moment, it's going to be overwhelmingly special, I think. But I what I try to do on those days for our seniors in any year is outside of kind of the grand celebration that's going to happen on the field and after the field, or after the game off the field. I try to get, each senior a little something, like a card or something, so that I can write something to them individually to kind of just tell them what they've meant to our program. And that at least gives me kind of that feeling of closure and celebration individually with each of them. And I hope it's something that they take with them as a special part of that day as well. So yeah, senior day is cool, and makes me think about my own senior day, and it's just a nostalgic thing.
What is that like as a coach to see those seniors go on and after collegiately go into the corporate world or getting into coaching field hockey or playing professional field hockey?
Well, it's just it's really awesome. Yeah, I'm now really excited as I look out. Like, if you see me look up here, it's because we have pictures on my office wall, and a lot of them are of alumni. And I've now been here, I'm going into my 10th year. So it's the first institution that I've been able to, to be at long enough that I have alumni who then get out in the world and are doing things. And some of those are in coaching. So I'll start with that piece of it, like to see people that I coached go on and coach, or to see my assistant coaches continue coaching and go on to other opportunities. I mean, can't say enough about that, what that makes me feel like, that I hope I was a small part in their motivation to want to go into coaching and pursue that passion at whatever level they choose. So I love it when that can happen. But sitting in a liberal arts institution that has really high academic standards, oftentimes our graduates are going off into the corporate world or somewhere else in the professional world. And it's really neat. Like, I think that's like probably not even the word that even comes close to describing it. But one of the motivations when I transitioned to Division III, I think it would encapsulate this question, is that, in the Division III world, because of the limitations we have on field, that we can't be with our athletes year round on field, we have to create other opportunities to have relationships with our athletes. And so often that's like grabbing coffee with an athlete on campus in, February, totally off season. And we talk nothing about field hockey. We talk about what's going on in classes, what's going on with their family. And so it allows me to have a totally different relationship and with them that's not connected at all to whether, what their role is athletically for us. And so it allows me to understand their academic goals and their career goals, and just really have a pulse on that, so that when they actually achieve that goal, I get to see that. It's really cool, not often surprising, because I think our kids go on and are really good students, and they often go on to do really great things. And so when I get to talk about it in recruiting and say, hey, we're liberal arts, but look at where all these kids have ended up and what they're doing now. And the longer I'm here, the longer that list has become. And it's really cool to see kids that were super committed to being really good student athletes, but that their academic commitments were that strong, that they've set themselves up to be successful and then are utilizing that out in the world.
What are some of your future plans for the Connecticut College field hockey program moving forward?
Well, year in and year out, our goal competitively is to make our conference tournament. We chunk our season, and it's like, you got to win the conference or get into the conference tournament, then you compete for the conference tournament championship. And then, depending on where you fall there, you have an opportunity to compete at the national tournament level. So wins and losses wise, like that's the goal every single year. That kind of goes without saying, like that's where we're going. Our conference is really tough. So our program has built in recent years, like this past year, we were able to jump 2 spots in terms of how we finished. And so we're looking in the near future here. Our goal is to kind of jump into the next tier in our conference and be consistently making the conference tournament. And then, eventually to be competing for that title, year to year. So that's like from the wins and losses standpoint, but day to day, our competitive goal at practice and within our group is that we are better tomorrow than we were today, and better today than we were yesterday. So we're always looking to get better, be more committed to each other and to ourselves, and all of that coupled with a culture that's student driven and relationship based. I think we want everyone to walk out and have an experience that they're proud of. They're proud to be Camels. They come back and give back to our program in various ways, and all of that in the end, I think, is more important than what the score sheet might say some days, because we're going to compete really hard, and some days, the ball rolls the right way, and some days it doesn't. And you could be the better team on paper and, lose, and you could be a team that might not be as good on paper and win. So, so much of that's out of our control, but we certainly set those goals and strive towards them. So we want to climb the ladder. We want to win conference games more and more, and get to a place where we are in the conversation to reach the national tournament. But you got to get out of our conference first, and it's super, super tough, which is why I love it. And it's why our athletes choose to come here, and one of the reasons, and why we keep pushing harder and harder.
What advice would you give those first-year college students looking to enter collegiate field hockey for the first time?
Take your summer workout packet seriously. Every college, if you're a recruited athlete and you're going into a college program, you get one chance to make a first impression. And that first impression is going to be related to how fit you come in physically, how ready you are physically and mentally to contribute right away. And so anything that you can do over the summer to continue to push your fitness level and play in summer leagues or whatever might be in your area, take advantage of all of those opportunities. Maybe out of your comfort zone, play at a higher level than you're maybe, not just with your friends down the corner, but hop into a league that has college players in it already. And so that you're putting yourself in the best place to make a really good impression if your goal is to contribute right away. Because you do only get that one chance to make that first impression on your teammates who you want to earn their respect, but also your coaching staff that has recruited you. But you got to earn it once you get there. So they recruited you, they see you have potential. That doesn't translate to anything until you get on campus and you make it happen. So putting yourself in the best position to do that.
What advice would you give those college athletes looking to get into professional field hockey?
Well, professional field hockey is a pretty small world. So, unfortunately for our sport at this point, there's not a huge pipeline. There is a better pipeline to the US program. It's becoming more accessible through the structure of our US program. So I think you got to start there. So if you're a young athlete in, younger high school grades or middle school, and you're seeing the national team play and you have aspirations that someday you want to be there, I think you need to get into that pipeline. And that comes from, asking your high school coach or your middle school coach and checking in on the USA Field Hockey website to get into a program called Nexus. That's kind of the beginning stages. And then just trying to stay in that program as it evolves, as you get older and older. And once you get to high school, or excuse me, once you get to college, if you are playing at the college level, taking advantage of the opportunities to play in the USA Field Hockey High Performance program. And all of those have opportunities within them to be chosen to play at different levels of the US program. Once you're kind of in that pipeline, you may get opportunities to go play abroad, because that's where the professional field hockey is for us. It's in Europe, it's in Australia, other, countries outside of the United States. And there are, plenty of people who go do it, but generally they're already part of our US program to do that.
What advice would you give those collegiate athletes looking to get into coaching college field hockey right after college?
Network. Think about all the coaches that you've played for, whether that was your high school coach, your club coach, your college coach. Don't be afraid to say it. Tell them that you're interested in coaching. And so that while you're in college, you're already, planting the seed that you want to learn about coaching. See if they'll let you help with video breakdown, if they're interested in letting you help with part of practice planning. Some coaches may want that, some coaches might not, but especially Division III, a lot of us don't have huge coaching staffs. So if I had a kid on my team who came in and said, hey, can I help with video, with clipping film? I would say yes. So if any of my kids are watching this, I would say yes to that question. So just trying to keep learning about the game from kind of that other side, not just what's happening in your locker room or what's happening with you, but starting to learn the other side of coaching, all of that stuff that's happening in the coach's office when you don't know that it's happening. But then the networking to, if you're a junior or senior, like seeing if your coach can introduce you to other coaches in your conference, or send you to leadership conferences that have to do with sports and careers in sports, through opportunities that come from the NCAA or from other sports organizations. And then if you're graduating and you don't have that opportunity yet, just staying connected with, again, any coaches that the field hockey world, because of our sport being somewhat regional, it's growing, but for the most part, it's a fairly regional sport. I say all the time, I talk about how small the field hockey world is. And so that can benefit you. It can also hurt you. So, you have to be respectful and nice relatively to everybody that you come across, whether you're a recruit talking to coaches or a current player looking for a job. Like today, that person might not be the person that you think is going to help you, but 5 years from now or 10 years from now, you might see them again, and they might be that person that's going to help you, and they're going to remember how you treated them today. So just taking advantage of the small world that is field hockey and utilizing your connections and learning as much about the actual job of coaching outside of the sport of field hockey as well.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to build their own program and legacy for the program?
Start small and really start with trying to define the type of team you want to coach, trying to really be clear in your own mind about the type of athletes you like to coach, the type of style you want your team to play, so that then you can try to recruit athletes that fit that mentality and that style, so that you'll enjoy coaching them. And when I say start small, I mean, depending on the type of program you take over, understand the reality of where you are. And so if it's a program who has not been hasn't been successful in the recent history, you can talk about winning and you can talk about, setting a goal of winning the conference championship, but you also have to have other benchmarks. So not pinning it all on winning and losing, trying to establish what it is, what the values and priorities are for you and the benchmarks for your athletes, so that you're giving them feedback and you're giving yourself feedback about things along with what the scoreboard says. So that's important, but the rest of it, the process and how you get there, and just letting yourself take some time to do it. Don't expect it to happen overnight. I mean, I've been here, I'm going into my 10th year and our program is not yet where I want it to be. It's an up and down process, and it's a process. And so, there are days that are, awesome. And I'm super proud of the program that we are today. I'm super proud of who we were 5 years ago. But it's a process, and you have to stay your course and believe in yourself. So I'll start with that. And the other piece is don't be afraid to ask for help. So if you did what I said a couple minutes ago and you've utilized your connections to get where you are, don't forget about those people, because they're going to be your biggest supporters. And the person you call when you're having a tough day, pick up the phone, send a text message, like, especially women in sports, like, we have to support each other because coaching is hard. There's a lot that goes into it. It's an awesome profession. We love our sport. We love the athletes we work with, but day to day, it's a really hard job. And some days are awesome. Some days are tough. So don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call somebody and just to vent or to ask questions. Like, try to be an open book and not be afraid to ask questions, because we're all learning every day, myself included. So don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Connecticut College Field Hockey Program?
So generally, we're at ConCall FH. So CONNCOLLFH. We're on Instagram, we're on YouTube, and we're on Facebook for those that still use Facebook. That's our social handles. I think we have a Twitter still, which would be the same. We don't post a lot on Twitter, but mostly on Instagram. That's mostly our mechanism. Someday maybe we'll pop into one of those other ones, but for now that's where we are. And then obviously they can reach out to me via email as well. cchappell@concall.edu.
Thank you again, Coach Chrissy Chappell, for your interview, and best of luck in your future as the head coach for Connecticut College.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. This has been a lot of fun. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Chrissy Chappell, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.